Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth and final day of our Global Summit. I'm Ross von Metzke. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the Director of Communications and PR for the It Gets Better project. Before we start this session, I wanted to take a second and thank our sponsors, Riot Games and Hope Lab. We truly could not have made this happen without your support, so thank you. Thank you very much. The theme of today is new opportunities, and we're going to start things off with a conversation on live streaming events. Something that took a lot of us on a crash course this year. So I'm joined by an amazing panel of people who have a lot of experience in this area. So I'm going to jump right in and let them introduce themselves, starting with you, Maddie. If you can introduce yourself and give your pronouns and talk a little bit about what you do. Plus, if one comes to mind, what was your favorite digital event of the year?
All right. Well, my name is Maddie Pryor, and I'm the founder of Rogue Agency. We're a creative marketing agency that specifically serves conscious businesses and nonprofits. And I started the company back in 2018, really as a reaction to working in corporate marketing and seeing the tools and tactics that big companies use to stay at the top of their game, to have the greatest share of voice. And as I evolved as a person, I felt really compelled to bring that level of efficiency and innovation to conscious businesses, to nonprofits, to the people and the organizations that were doing it right, that were dedicating to social good and dedicating to positive change. And so that is what we do. We really focus on digital marketing for businesses of that nature, and constantly are bringing them innovative strategy and storytelling, community building to have success in the digital space and to really share their message.
I love that. And because of that, that's why we're so lucky to have you working on this event.
Exactly. I've admired It Gets Better for a long time, and am really excited and honored to be partnering. I didn't mention my pronouns are she, her. You'll see them at the bottom of the screen. And, you know, in terms of a favorite digital event this year, I was really honored to work on a project with the LA Department of Mental Health in May of this year, right in the heart of the pandemic. And we did a 30-day virtual event series that supported the mental health of specifically the Los Angeles community with art and music and experts talking about mental health. And it was really enriching and a joy to be a part of and a joy to attend. You know, with each one that I was managing, I was also consuming the information and feeling really supported by that program. So it's definitely one that we're proud of and excited to have worked on.
Yeah, it was an amazing event. Thank you. Alex, you're up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Oroe, and I'm the Global Programming Coordinator at It Gets Better project. But also, I'm the Executive Director for It Gets Better Mexico. We are a big network of 18 entities for that make up the It Gets Better global affiliate network, including the It Gets Better project in the US. So my job is primarily to coordinate communications and efforts that we opportunities we provide for our affiliates to do their job of implementing our shared mission in their countries. So we are in places like, of course, Mexico and Russia and India and Brazil and so many places where things might be a little rough, but not nonetheless. There's a lot of incredible people that are doing great work to make things better in their countries. In Mexico, I've been leading the Mexican affiliate since we launched it in 2014. And my pronouns, I forgot. Well, you can see them there, he, him, él. And I'm based in Mexico, in the city of Mérida. I'm the only staff member of the It Gets Better project that it's overseas. And so because of that I've been part of the team since late 2018, and the fact that I've been working from home since like 6 years ago or something, my day-to-day job hasn't really changed much in terms of, of the pandemic or anything. So I feel like I kind of, trained for something like this in a way. But still, in terms of the question for my favorite event, even though my day-to-day job hasn't really changed much, putting together digital events, it's really something that I haven't had the experience before. So my favorite, even though I was part of the Pride celebration for It Gets Better project back in June, I must say that my favorite one was the one that we did in Mexico, at It Gets Better Mexico, because it was all volunteer-based, all volunteer efforts. And just to see the amount of passion and time and everything that our team put together for our first event back in May for our 6th anniversary, it was really incredible to see, and something that we'd never ever tried before, especially because we did it on Twitch, and we explored the gaming world and we found a new audience. So it was really great to see that it all worked, and also it was a fun way to raise funds, which is really tricky in Mexico, especially online. So
yeah.
And
we're going to get to Twitch more later because I'm definitely interested to learn about that. And now thank you. And now we're going to move over to Caleb.
Hello, everybody. My name is Caleb. Pronouns are he, him. I go by the Fitness Marshal on YouTube. I consider myself, I guess, a fitness pop star of some sorts. And we really have just built this community on YouTube since 2014, where we are lifting up people of all backgrounds, all races, all sizes, all ages, all sexualities, and really just giving people a place to feel like they can unleash their inner super diva pop star and feel super confident and have a better relationship with fitness and exercise and just moving their body, because I think so many people have felt othered by the fitness community. And as someone who is gay and who grew up feeling like I didn't fit in with just society and in the fitness space, this is something that has really helped me figure out who I am and feel super comfortable and confident in my skin. And now we kind of give a bunch of other people the opportunity to feel the same way. And I think as far as the best event I've done this year, I think the It Gets Better Pride event was really incredible, because I was missing out on, that opportunity to enjoy Pride myself and feel like I had that time to express myself, and being able to be a part of that and share kind of what I do with everyone through the It Gets Better Pride event was really incredible.
Yeah, and while you were doing your section, I remember getting texts from my theater friends in New York that were like, you better play for the back row. I was just like, everybody was having such a good time. It was a blast. Thank you. And now to you, Cameron, who also was involved in Digital Pride, albeit at a slightly more stressful level with me the whole time. You're up.
Yes. So my name is Cameron Moody, and my pronouns are he, him. I wear a few different hats in my life. So I do manage Caleb, the Fitness Marshal, but I also produced the It Gets Better Digital Pride experience just a few months ago. And so I think that was obviously my favorite event, but also is going to help guide a lot of today's panel as well, just because, we did learn so much there, but it really was a great event. Over the 3 days, we connected a ton of people. Yes, there were things that happened, but we also learned a ton about digital events and learned a lot about ourselves, It Gets Better, and the community, that they serve. So,
yeah, definitely. And it was a neat opportunity, because we typically, I think all of us are used to in-person events, but this was one where we could really sit back and just realize that when you go digital, just how far your reach is, how many ages, how many demographics, how many people that probably wouldn't be able to come to an event in person got to take part in this with us. So it was a really amazing experience. Well, I am so excited that you're all here. I'm just going to jump right in with my first question and go to you, Maddie. Like many people, you did a fair amount of work in the live event space and have since pivoted to digital events. What's that transition been like, and what do you think is the biggest difference?
Yeah, well, the transition has been interesting and, full of colorful moments for sure. I think, anytime that you're transitioning to, a new way of working out of necessity, there's a little bit of added pressure, a little added heat to the fire. And so certainly felt that as every client or every, organization went from live events to digital very, very quickly. I would say the biggest difference, and there are two that really come to mind. One is, in the live event space, magic moments just sort of happen organically. It's really just about creating the space and then putting in the people and all the ingredients, and the magic just sort of creates itself. And the digital event space really requires a bit more intentionality around, what are those magic moments? What are those interactive components? What ways can you be creative to allow for the audience to participate or have a way for, two-way dialogue to occur? And so that intention is really necessary in digital, where it might not be in live events, because it just sort of occurs. And so that's a call to action for sure. But like you said, Ross, there's also the flip side that digital events allow such a far reach when it comes to the type of talent that you can bring in, the type of perspectives and different backgrounds and opinions that can all be in the same room based on being in different places and being able to show up to the same digital space. And so I think it allows for a lot of, diversity and a rich mosaic of opinion and thought and sharing and, participant experiences that, could never occur in the live space in a, physical space because of restrictions of, traveling to get there. So there's some challenge, but there's also some, really unique magic about the space.
When you talk about intentionality and kind of creating those special moments, is that something that you kind of inherently knew going into planning these digital events, or is it something that you discovered as you were planning these? I'm going to have to really put some extra thought behind this.
Both. I knew it conceptually, but then when you started to see it happen, just in terms of, the reliance on audience participation, for example, right? Like in a live event, you sort of rev up the crowd and then you ask a Q&A and people feed off of each other's energy. And that's something that happens really organically. Whereas, inciting participation from behind a computer screen is a bit more challenging. And so it's something that we anticipated. And then once we experienced it, we figured out how to really react and create better opportunities for interaction that are more natural on a computer versus, expecting the same types of reactions that you would get in a live event. So certainly a learn as you go type of mentality, but I think a lot of people were in that learning process this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think as we all started this, people were a little bit forgiving more than they would have been in a typical situation. Alex, you are presenting the Global Summit digitally for the first time this year. What's that experience been like, and what is the biggest change from doing it in person?
Well, I would say that the audience as well is a little different, since on an in-person event, you have the audience there, you have the captive audience, right? And before last year, we did our first Global Summit in New York City for Stonewall 50. And it was our first global summit in that sense. Years prior to that, we would do it regionally. Our global network of affiliates are mainly present in Latin America and Europe. So in years prior to 2019, we had a summit in Colombia for the Latin American Summit and another one in Spain for Europe. So it was a matter of just getting representatives from our network, our affiliates, to those summits. And we would do scholarships to help them be present and be represented and be part of that experience of sharing their work and learning and so on. So by not having that opportunity to bring people to one place, you have to create, as Maddie was saying, the intention of creating that interest of them being online. And of course, it's more complicated to have it like in a long format. You just want them to feed off the content that it's really useful to them. And it might not be like a full day event, but if it's short, it could be actually more important to them for the work that they do in their country. So our summit this year definitely is shorter in that sense. It's not all day long. But at the same time, the benefit is that we get to invite everyone that belongs to the network, right? Last year, we only were able to give scholarships, 2 scholarships per affiliate, right? So that limited a lot the opportunities to connect. But this year, we're hoping that everyone from the network, it's online. We have over 300 members of each in the entire network that belong to many teams, and it's a really great opportunity for them to connect and learn from the sessions here, and also participate, because many of them are also being part of the session. So that's the difference, I guess.
Yeah, and I think even with the best airline deal we could possibly find, we could not bring 300 people to one place from around the world. That is not within our reach. Tell me really quick before we go on a little bit about the digital event that you did with It Gets Better Mexico.
Yes, well, we did also one for Pride season, but that was mostly, something very similar to what we did in May for our anniversary. And what we did was a multiple day live stream on Twitch. And our team put together a really great program of different schedules, time slots for different video games for people to play. And if people that were watching through Twitch wanted to participate on the games, they needed to make a donation. And we got a lot of queer streamers on Twitch to be part of the experience. And just because I wasn't really on Twitch before, I didn't know many of the streamers, but they were definitely very influential in that platform. So I got to see an entire different world of live streams, especially in the gaming sector. So it was a 3-day from around 2 p.m. to midnight for an entire weekend. So it was fun, but it was exhausting.
Yeah, I was going to say we did 5.5 hours and that seemed crazy, but 10, I'm impressed. Awesome. Caleb, you obviously got kind of a jump on the whole live, world as the fitness marshal. So I'm wondering, how did you get started in that space? Because obviously you got started well before COVID, but what has changed about it for you? Has the audience changed? Has how you approach it changed?
Yeah, so we had our YouTube channel, which everyone was accustomed to getting all of our content pre-recorded on. And we kind of took what we were already doing that was pre-recorded and tried live events in the real world, doing concerts literally all over the place, and found that our audience was really craving that live experience. But just traveling constantly got really daunting and it was very expensive. So we took kind of that concept and idea and then made that into a live experience and tried to see if that would translate, because we were worried that since we already offered pre-recorded content, that if it wasn't in person, no one would really care. But we found that just adding that live element, and like the magic that Maddie was talking about, just the difference between someone knowing that you press record and you had the opportunity to edit something, and then something that's live and that we're all experiencing together, just creates, for us, it created a whole new demand. And we were able to create a whole new business model just off of the live experience and offering content that we had already created. I didn't have to come up with new dances or new things. I just had to perform them live. And the audience was so receptive and excited for that. And so we kind of got an idea of how to do that before COVID. And then once COVID happened, we found just a flood of new people who were craving that sense of community and togetherness. And although they could have gotten that from my pre-recorded videos, the element that they were craving so deeply was just it being live. And so offering that to them created this whole new community. And even though they can't see each other, like on our live events, they can just comment, but they all know each other's screen names. They all know who's watching on what days. And they're so excited to just participate. And they really do feel like we're all doing this together. And we found that the less produced and the less professional and pre-recorded that it looked, the more people were excited about it, because especially right now, I think everyone's feeling so disconnected, and just to know that other people that are people they watch on YouTube are in their living rooms, hanging out, not having special lights or production, and just really being real and giving them that experience is something that we've found really, really works. And it's just continues to grow.
Yeah, the sense of community 100% is something that I think you don't realize you miss until suddenly it's yanked away from you. So I am so happy you were able to do that. Do you find when you're going live versus the pre-recorded that your energy is different, just kind of automatically based on how you're presenting yourself?
Yeah, so we tried to do it. And I mean, I'm a performer, so I crave live energy. Like I need real people. And so what we struggled with when trying out like doing long form content that was pre-recorded, it's so hard to maintain the energy and the excitement, especially when it's just you and a camera. And now when we do them live, just me knowing that it's live, I swear to you, it's a whole different experience. I can feel the energy, and just knowing they're there commenting, the entire experience and performance is totally different. And that's something you can't really plan for. And it's something that I can't really fabricate. Like I can try to do my best to perform, but knowing that people are there live and that added pressure and uncertainty really makes that magic happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Cameron, you produce for Caleb, but also, you produce for a number of people, a number of live events, including our Digital Pride event this summer. Talk a little bit about what you do and what goes into that and how it's evolved over the last year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it has changed so much over the years already. And then even now, just because before, like as Caleb mentioned, within the Fitness Marshal, we took things from, being completely online. And then we started doing these live events in person, years ago. Those were going really well. And then, with the pandemic and everything happening, everything switching back to online, I think it's been interesting to see how, like, just for us, how that online now is different than, it was years ago for us as well. And so now I think, the next piece of things, who knows when that is in the coming years, it's going to be, again, just bridging that live and digital experience, but at the same time. And I think that's what I'm just constantly thinking about now is like, okay, all of this is happening here, but then what's going to be next? And I feel like that's where I always am. But even now, there is so much that goes into all of these digital events because it's, things that people weren't used to before. But now everyone is like, you say Zoom and everyone's like, oh, I know what Zoom is. But, if you would have said that a year ago, people would have been like, what? So it's just, people have just changed and adapted how they're consuming that content. And so, being able to interact, like that's why people are loving these live events. And like the amount of IG lives that were popping up in March was insane, like their servers couldn't handle it. And so, now it's just figuring out what people actually want and what people want to engage with and, like what type of content is there. And, as Caleb mentioned, having that like real element, because these people want to, connect as we all do. That's why we're tuning into these events. That's why we're, chatting, because, we all are in our homes, not getting that, group of people. And so people just want to feel like they're connecting. And, if they can connect over comments, then, that's great, because at least they're talking to someone. Like for a few months, like in, March and April, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to talk to people ever again. Like, what do I say to people now? Like, hey, like, and so just figuring out how to make the community feel as involved in the event or the show or whatever it is. I think that's the most important piece. And that's what I'm always thinking about. So like, is there an interactive element? Is there something that they can, comment on as well? Like, what are those pieces in there that get people engaged, that make them feel like, oh, this is my event as well.
Yeah.
So.
When we first kind of started this, and you were talking about everybody going live on Instagram and their servers couldn't handle it, I feel like everybody kind of wanted to try their hand at doing something live. And now, as we're kind of into this, we've weeded out the people that, well, that was fun once, I'm going to go back to doing other things. Do you feel like, though, for digital events, Cameron, that the bar has been raised, that if you're going to do something live and digitally, you have to plan it out? You can't just do it?
I think it depends, honestly, on who you are and who your fan base is, because you can have people like Lizzo, like if she went live right now, I would tune in, I don't even know what it's going to be about. But then, if you have like some other, like for, It Gets Better, or like the Fitness Marshal, like I always like, we try to plan those things ahead of time and know like what we're doing, how we're connecting. But I think now, in this part of the year, a lot of people have been very, particular about what they're going live about, what they're promoting, what they're, doing or bringing to the community. Because before it was just like, you'd have people go live just to chat. But now it's like, no, like I'm going live because I want people to vote, or, I want people to stand up, use their voice. So you have all these like social justice movements happening within the live experience as well, which is, something that's never been there before. Before, it was hashtags, tweets, posts, but now like people are going live, they're sharing experiences. And so I think, within going live, just know what you're talking about, I guess, just have something there because people really just want that authenticity. And I think you can get that in live.
And kind of what you're speaking to, I think, especially about in this social justice movement era, where there are so many high stakes and so many important things to be advocating for, intentionality and authenticity means a lot more in this space than I think we really noticed before. So I think you're absolutely right. So I've just sort of prepared some rapid fire questions that we don't need to necessarily go fast, and I know that there's a risk if I'm going to say, whoever wants to jump in, because we can't, we're digital, so we could all talk at once, but that's the magic of this. The first one up, and whoever wants to take it, go for it. What's the most surprising thing you've learned or encountered in the digital event space? Do I need to call on somebody?
I would say that in my case, it was the amount of things that I didn't know about. In terms of, from the technical point of view, fortunately, there are so many new technologies, services that really, made it easier for people to understand how to do things. But also, I guess, talking about all the social movements and those conversations and the amount of content that it's out there now, especially this year, to me, it was a matter of, really getting the topics and the content that would start a conversation or that would incentivize an important conversation, right? Like, what's the point of you sharing something if it's not valuable? Because it seems like there's so much that you're competing with that how are you going to, differentiate yourself and your messaging from so many people?
Yeah, I think that's something we especially learned during Pride, because obviously Pride is such a huge deal for all of these organizations. But if you have 17 different people doing digital Pride events, what makes it different? And that was definitely a hurdle. Anybody else, something that they were surprised to learn?
I think that I was really surprised just in general with, since we're so used to getting all of our content online for free, how willing people were to pay for digital content that was behind like passwords, or like I know Billie Eilish and BTS were doing live concerts, and even with us offering, taking our free content and then doing like a paid version that was a more enriching live experience, and just seeing that people were willing to pay for something was really surprising, because I kind of thought in this era everyone just expected everything digital to kind of come free of charge. And it's interesting that people are willing to pay specifically for a live experience.
Yeah. Especially, I think what's interesting is I didn't realize how much free time I actually had until, I mean, it's still a lot to do at work, until there was nothing to do. And then suddenly it's like, okay, which digital event am I going to tune into tonight?
Yeah.
Anybody else, or should we move on to the next question? We'll move on to the next question. Do you think digital events are here to stay, or do you think things will go back to the way they were before?
I can jump in on this one. It's something that I obviously think about a lot, you know, as we plan our business and kind of where we want to focus our attention and energy. And, you know, I think as soon as live events are safe and, you know, sanctioned and allowed to take place, that people will jump back to live, just for the community aspect, for the gathering, for the oxytocin of being around other people. But I think what you'll see is digital integrations. And so live events containing more opportunities for live casting, for digital participation in some way, more sophisticated ways for people to engage with a live event from another place. And I think you'll start to see these hybrids emerge that allow for like the best of both worlds to come together. And certainly both will exist on their own as well, but I'm excited to see that hybrid emerge and start to incorporate broader communities through digital, and then keep that closeness and intimacy with the live aspect as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's definitely where I was, because I'm like thinking into the next piece is like, what does that hybrid look like? You know, like how do we have that interaction between not only people at an event, but also, you know, people around the world as well. And I think that, you know, having this has just showed us how much we can connect with so many people. So, you know, like we have an event in like a major city like LA, a ton of people, of course, but then also you have this whole world outside of that. So, you know, that live piece, you know, people are there for, you know, the performer or whatever it is, but also just seeing that audience there and, you know, having interactivity. I think it's going to be really exciting to see who does what first, because, you know, there are so many things happening now. And, you know, as Caleb said, like you've had people like Billie Eilish, BTS, like have these live concerts. And so, you know, when their first concerts are coming out, you know, in the years to come, what does that look like? Are they offering it live and digital? So then also, I know that people really want live events again, you know, just going to that concert, going to that event, but also just knowing that, you know, you don't have to leave your house to go have fun, feel community. I think that's what we're really going to get out of this as well.
Yeah. I think what was really interesting, especially during the Digital Pride event that I think, of course, knew at the It Gets Better project, but hadn't really been able to see up front is, you know, our target demo of young people is 13 to 18, 13 to 24. And so many of them would never be able to come to one of our live events. Like it just either it's a 21 and up event that involves alcohol, so they're not old enough to attend, or when we do have our youth events, they tend to be in Los Angeles or New York, which is kind of leaving half of the country out of it. To see so many people in the comments be like, I'm 14, this is my first Pride event, or I never thought I'd be able to see or celebrate with these people, was just an amazing experience as we're behind the scenes sweating bullets, making sure that we get our next, you know, thing live on time. It was just it was so nice to have that validation and know that they got something. But to speak to what you were saying about hybrid, what I also think is interesting that I'm learning about myself is I absolutely miss in-person events, but I think the bar for what I really want to celebrate in person versus what I can just watch on my computer screen or TV has completely changed. Because I absolutely think I used to go to events and halfway through be like, why am I here? Like, I really didn't need to come to this. Now I definitely think I'm going to be a little bit more picky and choosy.
I don't know if you guys saw, but in Billy's concert, while she was performing, there was a whole giant wall behind her of all of her fans live watching it, and they got to like dance around and be a part of the experience at the live event. And I thought that was such a cool like hybrid model, because especially with technology and latency, and it seems so hard to incorporate those things. But I think especially as technology is evolving, 5G is coming, we're going to have so many new opportunities for live events and to make that actually work more seamlessly. Because I think there's so many hurdles right now, but I think we're really on the cusp of having a bunch of new opportunities with like the 5G space.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think, you know, when COVID happened and kind of when this shift occurred really rapidly, it exposed areas in the tech space that were far behind maybe where we assumed they would be. And so it exposed these holes and, you know, thus these opportunities for tools to come in and integrations to come in and tech to catch up with a need that was really rapidly approaching and here already. And so I think it lit a fire under a certain part of the industry to create these, you know, super necessary integrations that allow us to better connect from far away. And you're right, like the accessibility that creates was needed well before this pandemic. And now, you know, as a result is really being focused on. And I think it's serving people, you know, far beyond the confines of this moment. It's a huge advancement.
Absolutely. I think we're learning, I mean, just to your point, we're learning so much about what we need and where we need to go and kind of who we're becoming in this moment. Okay, so now kind of the one where we get to throw ourselves under the bus. What's the biggest flub you've had working on a digital event?
Well, it was day one. It was tech, honestly. I mean, day one of It Gets Better, I mean, we ran so many tests. I had so many like, okay, if this goes wrong, I have this. And of course, the one thing that I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's not going to go wrong. Went wrong. We had issues with like our streaming with Skype. So then those like weren't working together. And then it was just this whole like, okay, well, what's next now? So then, you know, we obviously worked together, figured it out, had a quick resolve. But in that moment, I was like, oh, this is the end. Like day one, we have 2 minutes and that's digital pride for this year. But no, I think just getting over that curve, because there were, you know, that piece, it was just like, well, because you can only plan for so much to happen, you know, especially in this digital space right now, because, you know, there is only so much we know, only so much tech that we have, only so many things we can do. But just being able to prepare for anything, even if you have no idea what to prepare for, I'm just always having that backup, always having, you know, a team in place. Like I remember when that was happening, you know, I had like all of these people reaching out like, hey, what do you need? Hey, can I help? And just having that there is so important, because, you know, digital events are new to so many people. So just making sure you have a really solid frame of people that really understand and are like, you know what, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it. And, you know, it ended up being something really great. And, you know, at the end of the day, that one piece didn't really, you know, ruin the whole event. But, you know, I cried, but it's fine.
It's so funny. You know, I look back on that and I remember distinctly, because if I was in this office just pacing back and forth and the number of people calling me, I was convinced that everybody watching at home was just like, what is this absolute disaster that I'm tuning into? This is a mess. And no, most of the people had no clue that I mean, yeah, they thought that it was buffering weird and it was a little sluggish, but then we threw up all of those It Gets Better videos in a row, and we had people from our team commenting and kind of narrating them. And, you know, we would see comments like, well, I didn't expect to cry for 20 minutes during this Pride experience. And, you know, we didn't plan any of those videos, but I was just shocked how quickly everybody suddenly became a multitasker, which is not everybody's strong suit. But B, that if you just do your best and lead with your heart and put something out there that people want to see, people really were just quite understanding, and we got through it. And you did an amazing job. I know you were stressed, and I know you may have shed a tear or two, but we got through it.
I made it through.
Exactly. Anybody else, big flub they want to share with the world right now?
I've got one. I've got one that came obviously this year, as many of them did, and it was in the first couple of days of that 30 days worth of programming, and I was, taking on a new role in terms of live events. I've never actually done the back end, like, management side of, switching and making sure specific features are up, and it was a little more complex. And then my partner was working on the project with me as a video producer, and we hadn't told the client yet that we were together. Like, we hadn't gotten to that point in sharing, and we were going live. We were working with a panelist, and a couple minutes in, her feed just completely dropped. Her computer shut down. We had that panic moment of being like, okay, what do we do? Let's get the tech card up. It was the first time we had a technical issue, so we knew we had to kind of go through these steps. But what we didn't realize is that when her audio feed dropped, it connected to our audio feed. So audio feed was broadcasting out to the full group, and we didn't I got a text being like, your audio feed's on, and quickly corrected it. But there was 20 seconds that I had no idea what had been said or what had been heard. We got the tech card up, and had to kind of, the show must go on, you have to go back in. And so went back into the rest of the program, and for an hour, just I wonder what happened in that 20 seconds. And at the end, we got back, we closed out, and obviously immediately went back and played it, and we're like, okay, please, just nothing insane, just nothing crazy. And it was all just me being like, it's okay, babe, don't worry about it, she's gonna so it's just me reassuring him, but that was us announcing to our client that we were dating, on broadcast live air, ungracefully.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mortifying moment, but in that time period, in May, that's kind of what it was. We were all kind of catching up to this new way of being. We were working with, talent and panelists who were used to taking a Zoom call, but had never gone live. And so there was a lot of forgiveness, and also a lot of charm and honesty in those little moments that sort of made a flub actually this sort of endearing moment for our audience. Luckily, it was an early morning event, so it was not a huge group, but definitely a moment that I turned bright red and just said the show must go on.
Yeah, you were the prime example of leaving your mic on when you leave the stage. And
yeah.
We were doing one of our hour-long dance workouts, and we have a lot of families that tune in, and they do it with their kids, especially for their kids' PE class. And so a lot of families are relying on us. So we're doing this event, and of course, all of my content I keep family friendly. So I use the clean versions of all of the music. And there was a live event where we were playing this really dirty song, but it was clean. It's the clean version, and I played it, and we're live, and everyone's watching. And all of a sudden, while we're 30 seconds into the song, it starts saying very explicit words. And then I realized that I put the wrong song in the playlist. And so I'm sitting there with all of these moms and kids watching, and this is the raunchiest, this is WAP level song. And I'm sitting there trying to ad lib and scream and do things over the music. And it was a train wreck. But all of the comments were people losing their minds. They thought it was the funniest thing. And still to this day, people will comment one-liners that I did during that event. And it's something that really has stuck with people, and no one was upset or mad. And it just, like Maddie was saying, it's that endearing, authentic moment to kind of show people that you're real, because especially with how crafted everything we're used to seeing is, sometimes just seeing people in their most vulnerable states is what people want the most.
Yeah. I also think a lot of kids have heard words out of their parents' mouths during quarantine that they never expected to say in front of their children for the first time, without question. Alex, I know, when you were working on Twitch for your live streaming events, that was a new platform to you. So for somebody, tons of people use Twitch and they're experts at it. And then there are tons of people who are like, Twitch scares me. That's the one that I'm not really sure what to do with there. What advice would you give to people looking to jump onto that platform for the first time?
Well, I think the key of why our events there have been successful is because our volunteers are experts on Twitch. Most of them are gamers. So they already have all the equipment and they've been doing it for a while. And to me, it was really a matter of trusting them and making them part of the decision-making process of the programming. Because at the end of the day, even though I could be the watchdog for the messaging and the goals of why we were doing it, at the end of the day, we also needed to be enjoyable and fun and also technical, possibly. To me, it was really a matter of trusting our team. So I would say that you really need to rely on people that are already there on that platform, because it's not that you are going to really go on Twitch and create a new community. You're going to find a lot of audiences there, and there's a lot of interest. And I didn't know people would be willing to watch for, 48 hours long, a very simple kind of content, but it's very addictive. And so it's just dive in, try the platform, be an observer, trust your people that are on this platform, and just have fun with it. One of my things, it was kind of like a flop at the beginning, but it was easily corrected. I didn't have that live moment thing, fortunately, but I assumed, I made a lot of assumptions with our streamers, that just because I would prepare a one-pager for them to, know some details about our organization, the kind of, the technical side of it, I trusted that everyone knew what they were doing, because they all are streamers. And yes, definitely, they did a great job. But I think not a lot of people read what I sent them the first day. So I just kind of had to make sure for every time slot that everyone, was on the same page. Nothing bad, it wasn't that serious. But the first couple of time slots, it was a little, to me at least, I felt that it was a little off, but really, I don't think people noticed that part. Everyone was so excited. And also, you gotta be flexible, because with the live streams on Twitch, if you say that you're going to start at 8 p.m. or something, people are fine if you start at 8:30. Like, they don't care. They just want to also engage with other streamers or other users on Twitch on the chat. So there's a lot of going on there on the chat. So just also make sure that you have a team ready to moderate the comments in any platform, but especially on Twitch.
Yeah, we definitely learned about comment moderation very quickly, and also that schedules are great in theory, and then they go right out the window. Caleb, because a lot of people doing these digital events, they want to work with influencers, they want to work with people of note. What advice would you give to somebody putting together a digital event in terms of how to approach an influencer or how to engage?
I guess it depends what kind of the content is. For example, like with Pride, it was really exciting for me to have the opportunity to take what I'm already doing, what I'm already comfortable with, and reach a whole new audience and create like a really special live experience. So I think maybe approaching it as like the last thing a creator wants to do is have to make up a whole new idea or concept, because they're already doing so much with their own brand. So I think just presenting it as taking what they're already doing, repackaging it, and then making it something that they're comfortable with, but that they can reach a whole new audience with and really have a special moment that their existing audience is going to love, but also that they're going to reach a bunch of new people through this format and new platform.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cameron and Maddie, as producers, what's a frequent pitfall, or maybe not so frequent, maybe you only made it once and you'll never make it again, but what's a pitfall that you would advise people to avoid from your experience, or just something you can see coming?
I think for me is just making sure, like as I said, preparing for everything. But like something I always do is, I mean, you know, even before this today, just like sharing my cell phone number, because something that you think is just so minuscule, like just someone having my number. So like, you know, if something comes up, there's a text, there's a call, it's not like an email and then we have to sift through the email. But I'm always like, let's start a group chat now, let's do this now. And really there's just a lot of those, you know, technical pieces like, hey, is your gardener coming today at 9? Because the stream's at 9, or, you know, do you have internet? You know, do you have a reliable connection? Like there's all of these new pieces that, you know, as producers we have to bring up, or, you know, like, you know, just those little things that people aren't used to. Cause, you know, before it was like, hey, you're doing this live event, you know, kind of show up. And if you're there, we kind of take care of everything with you. But for this, you know, it's live, you know, people are seeing everything happen. So it's like, if something's going wrong, I can't just, you know, oh, look, can we pause everything? You know, Maddie, actually, can we do that? You know, so just being able to adapt and just making sure that, you know, you're ready, you have everything, you know, just as Maddie said, you know, having a tech card, having something there that's like, hey, you know, whatever's happening, it can even just be like, hey, we're going to play this video. But just knowing, you know, kind of the backups that you have, you know, because if talent doesn't show up for some reason, they don't submit their content, you know, when you need it, just knowing that you have other things that can still make the experience great, but also, you know, are a backup. So you're not just sitting there like, hey, what's next?
Well, I already screwed up your first piece of advice, because even though everybody has my cell phone number, I put my phone on airplane mode, so it doesn't matter. So that would not have been very helpful. I apologize. I won't do that again. What about you, Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, Cameron, all great points, and I think adaptability is huge. There are two that really come to mind for me, and one is pretty related to that, which is don't underestimate the power of a rehearsal. I think, you know, with live events, you have the ability to sort of get together beforehand. You're in a green room, you're kind of chit-chatting, and maybe panelists are getting to know each other. And there's not as much opportunity for that in the digital space. You're kind of signing on and then, you know, you're in it, you're in the event. So creating time for rehearsal, even if it's informal and it's just to get to know you, it creates a lot more ease and comfortability, especially for panel events or where there are multiple people. And then I think, you know, another pitfall is that that misconception that if you build it, if you throw it, they will come. I think with live events, there's a lower lift because you reach someone one time, they buy a ticket and they're committed. They've sort of made this commitment. And live events are different because you have to make them aware of it. And then oftentimes, especially if you're broadcasting on social, you have to catch them again in real time. And so it's, you know, it's a more complex structure of promotion, and you do need to be very intentional because the digital space is noisy and people have got Instagram open and their emails open and then they're streaming Netflix and they're doing 8 things. And so really finding those ways to make an impression and have someone commit and opt into your event so that it's on their calendar, they've made that commitment. You're not just one of the 18 things that they might do, but you're really that thing that they're looking forward to. And so that takes a little added layer of strategy and planning. But once you've achieved it, you get to have a really special, intimate digital moment.
Yeah, and I think with that rehearsal piece, it's so important because before, you know, we did Digital Pride, I was, you know, Skyping with every single person that was going to be joining in. And I was like, please do it from where you're going to be, the internet you're going to be on. And then also, you know, just anything that could come up. So I was Skyping them and I was like, okay, so that light's going to need to be turned off, and like you turn your fan off, and like just all those little things, because, you know, as you're live, you can only do so much, you know, and as I'm like calling these people, switching them on live, we only have like a few minutes there. And then it's like, but I'm also playing this thing. So there's just all these, you know, running parts. So just being able to, you know, connect with them as well. So it was just like, hey, I'm the person you're going to see on show day. This is, you know, the same setup that's going to happen on show day. So having that piece where it's not only, you know, you're comfortable, but also just checking to make sure anyone that's on camera, you know, they have everything that they need. There's nothing that's like standing out like, well, could you actually do this? Because then you'll, you know, have a few days to kind of correct any wrongs within that.
Yeah. It's so interesting from a marketing standpoint, just going back to what you were saying, Maddie, is the amount of work or the effort that you have to put in to get people to watch a digital event or be there when it's live. It's not that it's so much more than an in-person event, it's just that it's so different. And that's something I didn't really realize until we did our event, is that you have to keep reminding people, because to your point, somebody buys the ticket to your event. Yeah, of course you want them to go because you want it to look full. But honestly, if they don't go, they already bought their ticket. So from a fundraising standpoint, you've already hit that goal. But then I remember there were so many, like I could always guarantee that when the event sold out and you said there's going to be a handful of tickets at the door, that line would be there before the event. Like that, those are not things that work in the digital space. So we've all had to kind of relearn how we market. Mm-hmm. In a shocking turn of events, we actually timed this very well. We're almost at the hour mark. So I'm going to ask any kind of final thoughts or pieces of advice, or, you know, something you want to leave people with who are watching, who might be planning a digital event, or little tidbit.
I think just that, you know, if you are planning a digital event or you are doing something new, just be able to ask for help. If you don't know something, someone else probably didn't know that, or someone else might not know that. So just figuring out, you know, collaborating with people, because, you know, being in the digital space is very collaborative as well. So always just asking for help, always running through things. You know, if you think you know something, but you're like, maybe not. You know, there's so many people that are in this same boat right now. So many people creating such cool events that want to share, like, oh, here's this new like technology I found, or oh, here's this new platform or this new thing. So really just always be prepared to learn more and do more, and just grow within the events that you're already doing. So don't be complacent in like, okay, I'm going to do everything here this way for every digital event ever. You know, always be willing to take on feedback, to learn, to, you know, collaborate with other people.
Definitely.
I would add that the content, the conversations that you can create, try to make them as evergreen as possible. There's sometimes room for things that are, you know, happening right now that you got to talk about it right now, and might not be, you know, as relevant in the future. But in general terms, you can make something really valuable if it's something that you can repurpose in the future, and of course document it and try to share that later, at least a clip of it, if it's behind a paywall or something, you know, for people to watch it on social, and make it as accessible as possible in terms of, you know, you need interpreters, you need people doing sign language or something, or, you know, try to make it as accessible as possible for everyone online, because there's a lot of people that need it. And now that it's primarily the main source of engagement with other people, people are going to be really grateful that you pay attention to those details.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything else?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, that's such a great point about making it evergreen and accessible. And I think, you know, the goal with live events more often than not is that they do get to live on in some capacity. And so, you know, my advice would be take the creative risk. You know, take the risk to create something that is really visually vibrant, or that is, you know, super charismatic. I think, you know, everyone loves when the, you know, the person presenting breaks the fourth wall and says, oh, shout out to Sam in, you know, New Orleans, who's doing it, like that. Those moments of, you know, letting personality show and dropping formality can really bring a program, a workshop, a moment to life in a really special way. You know, adding extra color, extra life and flavor. We did a segment in the Why We Rise series called Drag Queen Story Hour. And our drag queens came with, you know, in full drag with backgrounds and, you know, even just that added visual element of a pop of color and big hair and lashes. The, you know, the visual part of that made it really usable for social content down the line. And I found myself finding all of these gold nuggets in those moments that lived on Instagram and lived in these other places because, you know, we took a risk. We let it all hang out and kind of made a real moment out of it. So yeah, that would be my call is, as we have all these digital events happening, you know, see what areas you're comfortable reaching a little bit creatively and what you can do to stand out and differentiate.
For sure. Your last, Caleb, do you have anything?
That was all great. No, I think just leaning, I think since we are in this different time where things are harder and that performance and visual that it was maybe easier to create with pre-recorded content, since it's harder, sometimes it's even just better to lean into more of the real, like they were saying, the moments that you can create that break the fourth wall and really make people feel engaged. I think that's the opportunity that we have. And so I think instead of looking at as a disadvantage or less produced or maybe not as polished, I think if you really lean into that, you can use it to your advantage.
Totally. Well, this was all really great information. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you everyone for watching and attending the Global Summit, and take a minute. We'll see you at the next session. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.